You got to remember that the communism doesn't have legal markets for the most part. It has restricted legal markets, again, grudgingly, household plots. But for the most part, it has a lot of illegal market activity, including in the state sector. So the state sector gets an order to produce certain numbers of large quantitative output for the military industrial sector, but it only gets allocated 25% of its ball bearings. So it has to assign its supply department on the black market to go out and find the other ball bearings that it's not assigned from central planning. So you get a massive black market in the system, not just at the level of little people in the village, but at the top level of the military industrial complex to make the system work. So when market behavior is grudgingly accepted, what that does is it brings market behavior out of the shadows into a legal or quasi-legal realm. So you're not inventing market behavior from scratch. You're surfacing it in some ways. And so party officials and industrial officials, they have market behavior in their firms to grease the system and to meet their...
I mean, I agree with their general point that how any nation gets wealthy is not by the government, but because of the thrift and entrepreneurialism and hard work of individuals. But that's also true in Western capitalist countries. In those countries, we also have a lot of stupid policies. And
as we sit here and speak,
when we say America is a capitalist country, what we say is like the government or all the bureaucrats, they'll try to put in all these regulations, and it's only grudgingly that they will accede to. We could point to a bunch of stupid policies in America where like they try to outlaw the potatoes and the onions, but they could only outlaw the potatoes, equivalents, things. So any capitalist society, quote unquote, is just a case where the government had to accede some amount of control. And we give credit to capitalist the countries in the West for saying like, at least the government wasn't maximally stupid.
Fair point, DK, fair point. We often exaggerate the role of policy in all realms because we do policy ourselves or we talk to policymakers. We have a bias towards the causality of policy. So America is 25% of the global economy since 1880.
Yeah.
We've had no income tax. We've had income tax. We've had high income tax. We've had low income tax. We've had tariffs. We've had fewer tariffs. We've had all sorts of regulations. We've had deregulation. For 150 years, more or less, we've been around 25% of global GDP, which is 5% of the population, through every imaginable variety of policy regime. That doesn't mean that policy is inconsequential. It matters for a lot of players in the system. It matters for those who get the policy turned in their direction, the subsidies or the tax breaks or the taxes on their competitors or whatever it might be. There's a lot of gaming of the system, and it does matter. But in the larger picture of things, you can't create the wealth of the United States over those 150 years, that global economic dominance, and you can't strangle it in the policy realm. You can affect it, but you can't either create or strangle it. And so we have to understand in the communist sense that incentives matter. We know that. And so when you create incentives for officials to increase GDP and to increase job creation, and that's how they get rewarded, you're going to get a lot of that behavior. And the party will do that not immediately. Remember, immediately they're kind of flat on their back and they've had this Gang of Four, and Deng Xiaoping has come back from having been purged, and they're on the verge of another potential famine. And per capita GDP under Mao is $200 during the Cultural Revolution. $200 is the annual per capita GDP of 1 billion people, and or slightly under. And you think, that's insane. That's where all the people are in poverty. When I was saying the regime put them in poverty. And so they're a little bit flat on their back, which creates an opening, and it creates this grudging dynamic of we're going to hold power and we're going to allow the economic entrepreneurialism to take place, but we're going to control it. We're going to control it with special economic zones.
In any country in the world today where there's a lot of poverty, the reason the poverty exists is also because of policy. And the extent the poverty has been removed, it is because some combination of human capital and policy got less stupid. So if we're gonna complain about a country like there's many poor countries in the world, like Bangladesh being poor, the country which just does it less. Maybe we're going in circles here. A different question I want to ask is,
No, you have a point. We're not disagreeing.
right?
I'm just trying to say that we give too much credit to the Communist Party for what's happened in China and not enough blame for what's happened in China.
Right.
And this is part of the dynamic of us seeing communism as potentially successful.
If you enjoyed this clip, you can watch the full episode here and subscribe for more clips. Thanks.